Thank you, Ms. Melissa Gordon. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this press conference, which we will look at our achievements for 2024 and offer the projection to 2025 and onwards. With me today, I have Minister Kwame McCoy, Minister within the Office of the Prime Minister, responsibility for public affairs. I have Minister Deodat Indar, Minister within the Ministry of Public Works, but Minister Indar also has the responsibility of overseeing the energy sector with the Prime Minister, and that's why he's here. Former Secretary, Office of the Prime Minister, Dr. Alfred King, and all the heads of the agencies departments that fall under the responsibility of the Office of the Prime Minister are assembled here with me today. And for you members of the media, we want this to be a frank and open discourse with you. And the questions that will be fielded obviously will be pertaining to those agencies under the responsibility of the Office of the Prime Minister. You know, the Office of the Prime Minister, there are many agencies. Other than the Secretariat, we have the Civil Defense Commission, all right, where we deal with everything pertaining to disaster management. We have the energy sector, the Ghana Energy Agency, GPL, HECI, for example, falls under the energy sector. We have the whole ICT subsector, where we have NDMA, Industry and Innovation. We have the Telecommunications Agency, the Postal Service, the Ghana Post Office Corporation. We have the PUC, and many other agencies pertaining to that sector, and of course the public communications. You're familiar with DPI, with NCN, and you know, everything to do with public communications. And as I mentioned before, Minister Kwame McCoy is responsible for coordinating that. In terms of major achievements of 2024, 2024 was an interesting year for us. We achieved a lot. There were a lot of challenges. But quickly, Guyana Power and Light, and I know that is an issue for cooperation that, you know, is being discussed a lot in Guyana today. And I want to start by telling you that we end the year on a positive note, notwithstanding all the challenges. We've increased total generation capacity in Guyana from 207 megawatts to 267 megawatts. In 2024 alone, we've increased the capacity by 124 megawatts. At Columbia Station, we had 28 megawatts that came on stream in 2024. Then we had the Forest Power Ship in the Barbies River with 36 megawatts. The second power ship came in just before Christmas, connected just before Christmas in the Demar River with 60 megawatts. At Anna Regina, we have an additional 1.2 megawatts, Wakenham 450 kilowatts, and the current peak demand is 205 megawatts. So we have in excess of what is required, not only to supply electricity, but also to have the spinning reserve that the technical people will talk about, and to cater for growth. What we have done in this year too, we have constructed 3.9 kilometers transmission line to link the power ship in Georgetown in the Demar River to the new Georgetown Power Station, substation. We've built, as you recall, also during 2024, 0.8 kilometer transmission line for the Forest Power Ship to link it. That is the L21 transmission line. What is of big significance or major significance for us in 2024, we have connected 912 new households, that is in underserved areas. In the Cragwood Creek area, we have 153 households that were connected. Samville, on the Linden-Zuzak Highway, some 500 households were connected and received electricity in 2024. And in other areas throughout the Demar-Borbis interconnected system, 259 additional households. We've secured funding of $39 billion for key projects under GPL, Ward Sealer Plant, $10.7 billion, Columbia, $4.1 billion, fuel assistance, $24.1 billion, and $852.6 million in pension support, benefiting 28,420 individuals, that is pensioners, throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. The Guyana Energy Agency, in terms of their renewable energy initiatives, had a very successful year, and some of the major achievements, you will recall, the Mokomoko Hydro Power Plant, a 0.7 megawatt capacity Mokomoko Hydro Power Plant was commissioned in early December. In Madja, we've commissioned a solar farm, a 0.65 megawatt, with a 1,500 kilowatt hour storage. We've installed 6 solar mini grids totaling 124.5 kilowatt capacity in Aishalton, Cradanau, Seaby, Canal Bank, Karaburi, and Aimakabra. Community solar programs were commissioned also in 2024, and we've delivered solar PV system to 38 public facilities and maintained 50 additional sites. We provided solar home energy systems to 245 communities, benefiting over 30,000 households. In terms of petroleum and fuel oversight, the GA has continued to do the work with regards to the licensing for petroleum activities. They've seen an increase, so some 22.7% increase in their activities with the interlicensing. Fuel marking, 1.04 billion liters of fuel marked in 2024, and they've conducted 8,655 site visits, and 16,202 fuel analyses were done in 2024. HECI, Hinterland Electrification Company, Inc., completed several projects, and those projects are linked with the GEA, Guyana Energy Agency. And recall, I mentioned before, Madja, 0.65 megawatt solar farm, and a 0.5 megawatt generator is installed at Madja. Mokomoko, again, HECI and GA collaborated, and we have a 0.7 megawatt hydropower that is up and running at Mokomoko. Ret'd, we have a 1 megawatt diesel, two 1 megawatt diesel generators were installed in 2024, and we've continued to train technicians for future development to operate the Ret'd power station. Digital infrastructure, the National Data Management Authority, NDMA, had a successful year where they've connected 215 out of a targeted 253 communities are now benefiting from the low Earth orbiting high-speed internet connectivity project. Those satellites, familiarly known as the Starlink devices, were installed, and we have 124 residents, mainly in our hinterland and riverine areas, are benefiting from improved connectivity. I can recall that 4 years ago when I was campaigning, And I went to some of those communities. We tried connecting, and we were still connected. We reached a stage today where we are connected. So all those communities now have high-speed internet, and all that we promised in terms of gold scholarship, telemedicine, etc., can now be realized by those communities. And we spent some $1.05 billion on that project. ICT hubs through another project, Interland Connectivity Project for poor and remote areas. We've completed 146 ICT hubs with 129 solar systems installed and 126 high-speed internet connections. We've trained over 1,155 individuals as ICT hub managers, as ICT technicians, and solar technicians in those communities to ensure that we can maintain the serviceability of the devices and the ICT hubs that were installed in those communities. Postal services, the Guyana Post Office Corporation continue to provide services for the people of Guyana, and during 2024 they've implemented a label scanner technology and integrated delivery services. They've established new mail transport routes to Miami, Barbados, and Grenada. In terms of community engagement, the GPOC resumed the school education program and hosted the annual letter writing competition. They've recognized staff on Ward Post Day, honoring some 27 long-standing employees and 5 retirees. And during 2024, they were among 13 countries that received the Universal Postal Union Quality of Service Fund Award. In terms of regulatory oversight, the Public Utilities Commission continued in the work with regards to consumer advocacy, resolved 155 out of 184 consumer complaints, awarding $13.3 million in compensation. They've reduced mobile and fixed termination rates by 58% and 54% respectively. And of course, they would have continued monitoring the performance, especially of GPL, and reviewed GWI's strategic development plan and the ongoing work in terms of preparing for the implementation of the number portability facility that was promised to the people of Guyana. Emergency management. Civil Defense Commission, in terms of disaster preparedness and relief, conducted mass casualty training for major events, including the ICC Cricket World Cup. They've delivered hurricane and relief operations and relief supplies across the Caribbean, mainly to Grenada and to St. Vincent, 2 countries that were affected by Hurricane Beryl in 2024. And in 10 days, we were able to load relief supplies on 2 ships and dispatch to those 2 affected countries. CDC had acquired a number of equipment, including amphibious vehicles for flood relief efforts as they prepare to deal with any disaster or complex emergency that will affect people wherever they're located in Guyana. In terms of policy development, the reform of the Disaster Risk Management Bill is ongoing, and working with the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, the CDC, have upgraded our early warning systems. And that is upgraded with support from SEDEMA. You know, there are some communities that are affected by high winds. Will be helpful in helping them to prepare to mitigate against any damages from those incidents. Innovation and training. Industry and Innovation Unit under the Office of the Prime Minister, they will have trained 1,560 individuals in ICT, including 1,386 students and 24 persons with disabilities. and they would have launched the Guyana Girl Code Program, training 150 females during the year 2024. Those are just some of the achievements. I know more will come out with the questions and answer, but I will now ask Minister McCoy for any comments you want to make, and then he will be followed by Minister Indar.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. And what the Prime Minister just outlined details for us another set of achievements on the People's Progressive Party civic government, where you can find in every part of our country, in every corner, the transformation is visible and is right before our eyes. This 2024 was another momentous year for us as a country, as a government, all together. And the information and communication, media and communication sector, of course, played its role in ensuring that the programs and policies and all that we have done or have been doing and continue to do for the people of Guyana are communicated in keeping with our mandate and, of course, in keeping with a very important constitutional provision of providing information to the people of our country for the purpose of them being able to make informed choices and decisions. And, of course, it lends itself to the whole notion of accountability and transparency. And of course, I'm happy to always share the fact that Guyana is one of the countries in the region and among other countries in the world that lead in terms of access which the media of this country have to the government and the cabinet members of this country, and for what has been our record over the last 4 years, unprecedented record of engagement with not only media, but the public at large, the general, the society at large, through outreaches, through all types of other community activities, through site events where media operatives have the opportunity to probe and to go after the questions and seek answers from us as a government. And so more and more we have become the type of open, transparent government that Guyana deserves, and definitely we are able to fulfill many programs as a government, and through all of the things the Prime Minister has mentioned, we have delivered to the people of our country. And by now, it ought to be very clear that, to all and sundry, that His Excellency the President, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, and of course his cabinet, who we are part of, take our manifesto promises very, very seriously. And at the end of 2024, we have achieved over 90% of the commitments to the electorate of this country, to all Guyanese in general, for our first 4 years, and certainly, no doubt, within our 5 years, before the end of our term, we will all be celebrating as Guyanese the achievements as a result of us being a government that stood to their promises to the people of our country. We have consistently, as the information sector, we've consistently provided the opportunities for our people across the country to learn about its government's work and program, with the broadest possible access to information by the press, and of course a wide range of press conferences by the president himself. And why is that even very important? Because there was a time in our very not too distant past where you couldn't hear from the previous president of this country, and you now have the opportunity in perhaps, well, as frequently as possible, to hear from our president and to hear from his ministers and to hear all about all that we are doing as a government. And so that itself is something that lends itself to democracy and to be able to have your citizenry fully engaged and informed in relation to the work that we do. And so we have restored and maintained this unfettered, enabling environment for freedom of expression as a government, something that we're proud of, press freedom and access to information, which was built by by our government, and you know what happened in the previous year between 2015 and 2020. The many initiatives which spoke to distribution initiatives across this country where all our people were involved, where the press, for example, is able to have a first-hand examination of the extent of reach of those programs, the extensive community-based engagements with populace on the ground, people-centered approach initiatives. All of these things add up, and we are continuously working as a government to ensure that our people are not just receiving the benefits of its government's investment and all that we do on a daily basis, but also that they have the freedom to participate and to be able to give reactions and to give expression to the work that we do as a government. The core communication activities since 2020 basically speak to the multi-layered forensic needs assessment that was conducted across the state media and the communication spectrum to determine the extent of the neglect and the maladministration of the hands of the last coalition government. And since then, we have ventured into a multi-year recapitalization and administrative strengthening strategy that came out of this examination, this assessment, that works to get our media practitioners back into the work of being able to, first of all, operate, you having equipment and the tool to operate, and to be able to professionalize their way they transmit information to the public and share information with the public and educate the public altogether. Skills training programs for media practitioners, there have been numerous of those over the last few years. Significantly, we also, for our activities of government and in the information sector, scores other national and regional, international work that we are doing with countries such as Barbados and Jamaica, Ghana, intensifying soon, and we will speak to some of the benefits of these at a later stage, where we're able to share not only resources but also to do exchanges where we can learn from each other and to be able to have it serve to benefit our media workers. And I dare say that the opportunities that we have been providing in terms of training have not been limited to those in the state media. We've extended these opportunities to members of the private media as well, and we'll continue to do so because we believe that all of the media of Guyana is about being able to equip and upskill themselves to tell the stories about Guyana. Of course, to also be able to, without feeling pressured, do the work that you set out and the agenda that you set out for yourselves as independent media houses. All of those are part of our work as government. And so continuously you will see a lot of this work that we do playing out to all our benefits as a people of Guyana, and of course working to promote the work of all of the sectors, the tremendous work in health and education, from the office of the Prime Minister, from all sectors. The stories are fascinating stories about where we are and how we've gotten there, and focusing on the hard work that we do on a daily basis to get our country to the point where it is today, and a story of success altogether that's being celebrated across the world. So I may stop here for the moment, and if there are any questions as the press conference, during the press conference, I'll be only willing to answer.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister, colleague Minister Kwame. Thank you very much for having me here to report on some of the things that you said, Prime Minister, but I believe that we should explain some of the details of the work of, especially in the energy sector, of the Guyana Energy Agency and the massive work plan that they are undertaking in 2024. And their CEO is here, Mr. Dr. Sharma and his team. The massive amount of work that was done in the renewable sector. And I would like to go through some of those because Prime Minister mentioned 245 communities benefited from solar PV systems. But I would like to add some details to that, because what it does, it reflects the PPP's government, our focus on making sure that the riverine community and the hinterland communities benefit from power just as the coastal community. So although we'll speak a little on GPL and what are some of the things that we're doing there to make sure that the 230,000 customers that we have are having reliable power, we want to talk about what we're doing in hinterland. Also, I want to thank the team from GPL. I see Mr. Homer, Mr. Harjon, and Mr. Ross here. They have been doing some work, and I want to show you all what are some of the heavy lifting that was done in that sector, as well as Mr. Horace from the 8th Hinterland Power Station that agency manages. So, Prime Minister mentioned the commissioning of a 0.7 megawatt Moka Moka hydropower plant. So that was already commissioned. The other one at Kumu, I am told and reported that by February we should have that commissioned. Now that is equivalent to about 1.5 megawatts. So together in that community, Moka Moka and Kumu, and like Quarry and some of the St. Ignatius and some of those other communities in the Tem periphery will benefit from 2.2 megawatts of hydropower going into the grid. Now that has significant ramifications in terms of saving in fuel, more reliable power, and so on. The cost of that two hydropower plant is about 12.85 million US. So that is the investment that our government has put into the community to make sure that that economic expansion that is happening in the accommodating power demand is catered for. Moving on to that, the Madia solar farm that we have commissioned, Prime Minister, we've done that, took a lot of work. It's the first of its kind here, and it put at least 0.65 megawatt into the grid. Now we had some issues with power in Malia where we had the fossil engines, some of them were going down, so they were synchronized. When one went down, we carried the other one because they can't fetch the load for the community of Malia because the community continued growing. So we have put in another engine there, and with this solar power tying to the grid, that now will make that community fully reliable on the power plant there. I also want to speak about the solar, the 30,000 program. Now that 30,000 program is just a figure, we mentioned. It's equivalent to 1.748 billion Guyanese dollars. Now let me explain to you where all that went. So first of all, the 30,000 home systems equates to 4.8 megawatts of power spread out into the hilltop. That saves us in terms of CO2 emissions and so about 1.5 tons, I'm told, on CO2 emission. But I want to talk a little about where these home systems went. 80 communities in Region 1 benefited from it. 80 communities. Arau, Aruka Mount, Barbina, Bombari Hill, Imbotero, Kamwata, Morawana, Red Hill, Wauna, Yarakita, Pubo Hill. So 80 communities. I can go on all day and I can mention these communities, but each community, the lives of citizens have changed because of this power. And in Region 1 alone, we put in 80 communities. We put a total of 8,637 home systems in Region 1, valued at $580 million. We put 6 mini-grids at Barmita, Canal Bank, Haimacabra, Quibana, Karaburi, and Sibai. 6 systems valued at $185 million. That is the investment in power in Region 1. There are another 15 locations that we put solar systems on schools at Kamwata, Santa Rosa, Rakaka, Wauna, Baramita, Red Hill, Mabaruma, Kumaka, Chinese Landing, Smith Creek. All of those places, the hand and the workers and the contractors from GEA went to install these systems. Let me just go over to Region 2, where 22 communities benefited from this. 22 communities, $186 million was put into investment in those communities. And it, look, St. Monica, Kabakabori, Wakapau, Akawini, Bethany, Mashabo, Kapui, Mainstay, Dredge Creek, Jack Low, Siriki, Abrams Creek, St. John, Hackney and Aberdeen, Heathfield, Providence. These are places that folks said, Riverstone, that 3 friends that we didn't go and deliver things, but we delivered these things. It went into the community and installed. We went and see if it's working. And that is the level of work. So 3,168 home systems went into Region 2. 22 locations benefited from other solar PV installation, like Bethany Nursery School, St. Monica Health Center, Kapui Nursery School. So all the schools and the health centers, we put solar power in. In Region 3, we had 4 areas, about $12 million. It's Karakaria, Saxacali, Santa Mission, and Lower Bonasika Creek. But what we also had there is in Leg 1, we have put $292 million investment in a solar PV farm there. That is a 0.6 megawatt farm. That we are, about April, you'll see a commissioning of that. So we invested in the off-grid, same thing for Wakenham. Wakenham, we have invested $2.3 million US for a 750, there's a kilowatt peak, right? 750 kilowatt peak, and that should be commissioning in late January of this year. So by the end of this year, Wakenham will have that solar PV system tying into the grid, reducing the dependence on fuel and all of the related savings. So that is only for Region 3. Region 4, you have 9 communities. Laluni, Long Creek, Swan, St. Cuthbert's Mission, Circuitville, Sue's Dyke, 9 communities, $81 million. All of them have solar home systems. 1,377 systems were placed in the periphery of the riverine communities of Region 4. So persons cannot go away with the thinking that we only look at the coastline. We look in every aspect, in every household we try to meet. Moving on, in Region 5, there was Moroccobai that we put in those systems there. 170 systems went into Moroccobai. Region 6, 686 home systems went in there, valued at $40 million. From Siparuta to Orial to Molson Creek, New Forest, Tannery, Mara, Plitanka, all those places are. Region 7, 50 communities benefited from this very program. 50 communities from Dark Point, Karawaga, Tashi, name it, right now. All of the communities in Region 7 benefited from it. $292 million. About 4,924 home systems went into Region 7. And Region 7 benefited from more. We had a 1.5 megawatt solar farm at Bartik valued at $703 million that we put into the grid farming. So it helps with with the fuel consumption and other costs related to power generation. 9 other locations like Carao Primary, Batavia, Kaikan, all those places that have schools and health centers, we install facilities here. Region 8, we had 31 communities. From Mykobi to El Paso, all of those communities, straight down to Madia, Red Creek, Carisparu, Chinapau, Bamboo Creek, all those places, we put in about 3,028 home systems in there. So every household received one. Region 8 also benefited from other solar RP at Bamboo Creek and Kopinang Primary School. Region 9, 57 communities benefited from the same program. From Karasabai, Paipan, Tigapan, Kakshibai, Tashauda, Yoramparo, Rokomoto, Tipiru, all of those communities, all of them, they benefited from it. So I am going through this thing painfully to make the point. Where we say that we're going to bring power development for everybody, it's here. It's here. And there's a reason I'm going through it painfully. I move on. Region 10. Region 10. This is the last one for that program. 15 communities, Great Falls, Kimbia, Malali, Moratario, Rockstone, San Hill, Ibini, Makaura, all of those places, they had this system, valued at about 92 million. We put 1,572 home systems there. So when I spoke initially of the sprawling work, or the GEA, the massive workload, is to get these things, the logistics of getting it in, installation, all of these things. Make sure it's tested and working. That is that one agency. So I want to thank the CEO and his team on behalf of us at the Prime Minister's office, and I hope to take them attached to the Prime Minister's office because we speak wholly every day on power matters. Right? So I want to thank, but I want to also report a little on GPL. So Prime Minister mentioned about we came off the year at a good point, where for the first time we have about 267 megawatts of operating reliable generating sets, which includes two power ship. One with 6 megawatts up in Everton, and the other one powered by the Sugar Terminal, have 60 megawatts with an extra 15 that we've contracted when we build the second piece of the transmission line. Now, we have, as the President mentioned in his press conference, we have some engines that has gone over their required scheduled maintenance. I have had a meeting with the leadership of GPL, PPDI and others to make sure that they have a schedule, and that schedule will govern how they bring down these engines to make sure that whilst the engines are being repaired, we have enough generating capacity to deal with demand, and we have enough spinning reserve to deal with the demand. And they have came up with that, and they are in the process of making sure that those engines that pass their running hours, and some of them have gone past their running hours. I saw one of them at really low 4,000 hours. Please recall, we could not have taken these engines down. They were needed to generate power because we did not have enough generating capacity to match the massive growing demands of the country. So what we have done, so on the generation side, I think that in the foreseeable future we are good. We have to manage those engines to make sure that when they go down to repair, they come up back based on the schedule timing. That will have to be managed, and I've mandated GPL and PPDI and the rest of them to make sure they stick to that timeline. What we will do is to make sure that the transmission network is adequate enough to dispatch the bulk power. We have Kalapataru, who is already very advanced in moving the transmission line from the gas to energy to Breeding Hoop, and the gas to energy in Wales to better for Wacting behind Naples, where the control building will be for the whole GPL operation. So that is advanced. We also we went out to tender last year, open tender, for 8 lots to deal with various transmission lines and substations that we have to build out to make sure that the power, when come on board from the gas to energy project, is dispatched in a bulk form, but make sure that it reaches to the far end. So we have went out to a second tender in 3 lots to move about, I think it's 155 kilometers straight up to Bordeaux, so that you have bulk power, 230 kV to be exact, moving the power straight to Bordeaux. So when the power is generated in one region, it's not trapped in 1 and 2 regions, it's distributed throughout. And those will have the required substations and so on. Nothing else there on GPL. On hinterland electrification, I just would like to add to what Prime Minister mentioned, that we have some ongoing projects for extension of the electricity service at Canal Bank, right, and Port Kaituma to serve another 150 unserved households. Kumaka, there's a network from Kumaka to Osororo to serve another 400 households, and we shall start the commissioning of the Kato hydro project facility. That is about 100 kilowatt peak hydro facility that will serve 34 communities sometime around 27th of January this month. We'll start the commissioning of that. It's been a long time that project has been carried out. Finally, at the point where we are going to be commissioning it. On HECI, they manage 8 plants. So Horace and his team, they manage 8 plants at Letem, Madia, Kwakwani, Linden Electrification Corporation Incorporated, Mabaruma, Port Kaituma, Maruka, Machus Ridge. 8 plants that company manages to make sure that those communities are powered. Lastly, on the gas to energy project, as you know, this project has multiple moving parts, and the Vice President at his weekly press conference sometime will answer questions on it. The project is ongoing. There are multiple parts of it, and every aspect of that project is being monitored, and we're working with all of those contractors to make sure that they bring it on time as contractually obligated to do so. Any questions on those, you'll direct them to Prime Minister. Thank you very much, Prime Minister.
Thank you, Minister McCoy and Minister Indar. Madam Moderator, we finish our opening remarks and we are now open for questions.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you to the members of the head table. So, what we will do, we will start from the first member of the meeting today. And just a reminder, you have 1 question and a follow-up. And as we move along, we will just ask more questions. Alright, so we'll start with the first member of the meeting station 8, and we will be represented.
We can fix it as we go.
Just a clarification. You mentioned the upgrade from Kingston to supply the transmission line to Oakland substations at we $35 million. I believe this was awarded to Cummins Electrical last year.
They're not completed.
It's not completed. It's work in progress, but it's moving slower than expected.
Yes, that project is not completed. It's still a work in progress. Of course, it is moving a bit slower than we expect. But it is a work in progress. We continue to monitor it and work towards ensure that it's completed as soon as possible.
Where's the other one?
Minister, can you say what are some of the delays that you've been facing to facilitate this slowness in the project?
Well, the delays is related to the challenges faced by the contractor. So we're working with the contractor to speed up and get the project back on schedule and complete in the shortest possible time so the people can benefit from that work. That's the L5 transmission project you're talking about.
Good afternoon, Davina Bayo, the Treasury News. Prime Minister, can you explain what is causing the delay in the release of the gas to energy documents? And can you perhaps say how soon they will be made public?
Well, you know, almost every week there's a lot of information being disseminated on the gas to energy project. But I don't know if you want a document, so to speak, that's what you're asking for, a written report on the project.
I'm aware that there was a heads of agreement that was signed between the government and ExxonMobil. I think the public was really interested in that document being released among others.
Well, I'm not aware of what you're talking about here, but I can assure you that we have been consistently releasing information on the gas to energy project. What particular aspect of the information are you interested in knowing at this stage?
There are concerns about how exactly the project is going to be repaid, through what mechanism, because there was some uncertainty regarding whether it would be funded through the repayment would be made via cost oil or whether that would be done through, there was another mechanism that was outlined. I think the DP said we would purchase the gas and then we would pay through that. So there's no certainty on that. So that is among one of them.
Well, you know, I run the risk of being given an answer that's contrary to what is being given already. As you know, in our approach to governance, the Vice President has the responsibility for dealing with all the finances and matters pertaining to that project. And he would have already disseminated information on that project. And I rather prefer that we perhaps defer that question to his press conference, because he's handling information pertaining to
Next
that.
question, please.
And he would have been given on a weekly basis information pertaining to the finances and how we intend to repay loan, etc. for the gas to energy project.
Thank you very much. My reason, just allow me to clarify, the reason for asking the question is because I'm aware that you also made a commitment to Parliament to have a produced document. But I move on to my follow-up question.
Before you go on, the commitment to Parliament is about the project itself in terms of start time, completion time, etc. Right? I'm aware that a lot of information pertaining to the financing, which include the repayment of loan, etc., is being disseminated by the Vice President to the wider Guyanese society at his weekly press conference. I think for me, the gas to energy project, we express a lot of concern about the finances, but I want to rest assured that the VP has dealt with the finances and he will continue to disseminate the information on finances. What is important for the Guyanese people is the benefits of the project. And we've spent a long time explaining to people that as soon as this project comes on stream and start producing the power, they will see not only reliable electricity, not only adequate electricity, but a 50% reduction in what they're paying for electricity at this moment.
Thank you. And for my follow-up, sir, can you say...
No, let her move.
Can you say whether Exxon has completed and handed over a gas leak management plan for the pipeline? And can you also say whether this will be made public soon to sort of ease any public tension?
I cannot say for sure anything about Exxon and their work. My understanding is they've already, the line is completed, but all documents and other information pertaining to that, I will defer it to the Vice President at his press conference.
Next journalist, please.
Good afternoon, Marcus here at Toronto. Mr. Prime Minister, you mentioned something about the reform of the disaster risk management or something of that nature. Can you give us a bit more detail? What stage is that at?
Well, there are several things about the disaster management as it pertains to the work of the Civil Defense Commission. You know, we are building out for each region, we would like to have their own disaster management structure. We've done a lot of work in Region 9. We have infrastructure in Region 9 in terms of we have a shelter, we have storage facility, right? And we have a regional democratic council that has a civil defense commission structure that is running and works with the central civil defense commission. As it pertains to legislation concerning like the legislation concerning the work of the Civil Defense Commission, we're working towards having this whole comprehensive disaster management legislative placed before the National Assembly, and this whole issue related to oil spill management. They've been through several iterations of exercises and study days. So we have a document now that we would like to take to the National Assembly to legislate the operations of the Civil Defense Commission in a comprehensive manner.
Good afternoon, Peter. Milton Garner for Starboard News. Can you say what percentage of Guyana's energy needs is being met for renewable resources?
You have a percentage? Percentage by renewable.
What percentage
You have a
Guyana's
percentage?
energy needs is being met from renewable resources?
Okay, it's just about 5% of our energy needs at this point as I speak, but that is going to increase tremendously over the next year, 2025, 2026, and definitely 2025, 2030, because we have 3 utility scale solar energy projects. We've already signed contracts for the construction of solar farms in Berbice, in Berbice and in Essequibo, and we will be signing another one for a 15 megawatt solar farm in Region 10. Now, you recall that we have Amelia Falls. We've already had a request for proposal for Amelia Falls. The evaluation of those submissions are being done, and we envisage Amelia Falls, after the evaluation, the whole development of the project, including the construction of the falls and everything, that will occur during the next 5-year development period, 2025, 2030. So what you will see is an increase in the percentage of energy from renewable energy sources for the remainder of this term. As you know, we have elections at the end of this year, and then the next 5-year development plan will include the ramping up or the increase in more renewable energy projects.
Can you say why the government hasn't done more in this area, and it's only 5%, considering climate change?
Well, the government always has an intention of doing more, but you know, everything has to be financed. You need to have money or some source, all right, of money in terms of lending or borrowing to finance those projects. We are in a stage now where we have an increase in revenue from the oil stream, and as we promised the people of Guyana, we'll utilize this increased revenue to improve the lives and livelihood of the people. Now, improving the life and livelihood of the people will lead us, obviously, to make our people more resilient as we face this whole issue of climate change. And it is throughout the world known that movement towards greater use of renewable energy is part of the whole plan to make us more resilient. So we have the resources now, and we're going to utilize the resources to have greater usage of renewable energy.
Thank you, Dennis.
Mr. Margaret, Secretary Board of Revenue, sir. Just to follow up on my colleague's question with respect to renewable energy. What studies are being done by the government with respect to rainfall and drought to ensure that the hydropower projects and the solar projects will continue to be sustainable when they're started, and of course, when the Niagara Falls comes to the stream? And my substantive question is, what is the status of the application by Starlink to provide wide internet services to Canadians?
Just repeat the last question.
What is the status of the application by
sustainable?
Starlink
The status of the application for Starlink.
Oh,
so that internet access can be made available to the wider Canadians?
Well, with regards to the last question, Starlink, yes, has an application on file and is going through the process. We've had discussions with Starlink. The discussions are ongoing, and I envisage that it will reach the point where, like the other 124 countries in the world where Starlink has a contract with, we will reach to the point where we will have a license.
Time frame in that?
In terms of a time frame, I would say as early as possible, because those discussions are ongoing. You can recall that the president himself had a conversation with Mr. Elon Musk, and I myself had conversations with senior executives of Starlink, and we're moving towards licensing them, maybe I would say in the shortest possible time.
Follow-up to my colleague's question. The follow-up to my colleague's question.
Studies being done.
Well, there's a lot of studies that have been done in Guyana over the years, and the GEA is a repository of those studies. We have other agencies in the Ministry of Agriculture, GGMC. Those studies are widely available, and it's based on the information, right? We are making informed decisions as it pertains to where we will locate hydro projects or solar farms or whatever. So there is a lot of studies available out there, and I can tell you that this, with regards to Amelia Falls, all the studies are there point to Amelia Falls being
The hydrology studies
a very good site in terms of the feasibility studies that were done for a hydro project. And that's why we're sticking with Amelia Falls.
There was a hydrology study.
Next person, please.
Good afternoon, this is Mel Pato, Newsroom. Prime Minister, could you address the issue of electricity theft and the possible financial losses that GPM may have incurred as a result of this for 2024?
The total loss is about 25%. About half of that, which is about 12%, is commercial losses, meaning it says a lot.
Yes.
Meters and so on.
Yes. With regards to your question, some 25% was the figure given as the total loss. 12% of that is, like commercial loss. However, we continue with our project of changing out meters because, with the modern metering, that itself, it is costly, but that itself will help in reducing the loss that you're talking about.
And the new transmission line.
And of course, we intend to, we already start spending some money, and we intend in 2025, and you would have heard the president's press conference, some $750 million we'll start spending in 2025 towards building out and modernizing the whole transmission and distribution system, which itself will contribute towards reduction in line loss.
Just to clarify, this is electricity theft reduction.
You talk about loss.
Theft of electricity. Person stealing electricity.
Yeah, well, in terms of loss, theft is part of loss. Electricity loss.
So 25% includes theft.
No.
Go back to it.
25% is the total loss, right? We have some 12% loss that is from the commercial side, okay? But you want to know exactly what is it in terms of theft?
Yes.
I don't have a figure. I don't know. You could.
Thank you. So let me just clarify for you so that you don't. So we have around 25% of total loss. That splits between what we call technical losses and commercial losses. The commercial losses, there's a term they use for people when they juke the wire, when they run a wire from the pole into the house, are using colloquial language. When they do something with the meter, when one man got a meter and he split it to the entire community, that is what we call the term commercial losses. Right? That is around 12.5%. That, how do you fix that? You try to make sure that you have a very good monitoring system, inspection systems. As Prime Minister mentioned, we are changing out a lot of the defective meters, the old meters that don't spin, no matter how much current you born in, they don't spin. Those are the kind of things we mean. I'm using colloquial language so we don't get, so the message is clear over. Because this, in the past, has been very high, and we've worked to bring it down. On the other side of the loss, which is the technical losses, most of the time it comes from the line losses. I mean, you lose power when when it's been moved from from the point of generation to the point of distribution. So you lose power in the line, and if the lines are old and so on, that's why we are now upgrading all the transmission lines. Thank you, Mr. Banks.
Thank you. Next person.
Brian, Evening News. Just wanted to clarify, you mentioned just now that proposals from Manifest are still being reviewed. Do you mean the proposals from over a year ago?
Yes, they're now in the evaluation process, where all the proposals from the last request for proposals, right? It's not over a year, you know. It's just like about 5 months, I think, since we would have closed and have the evaluation started. So that is ongoing.
Okay, and my substantive question on the power ships, the EPA said that it would be doing checks on the emissions around the power ships and so on when it comes to gas and waste disposal and so on. From the government's end, what safeguards are in place against pollution and so on in power ships?
Well, that is the work of the EPA. And you already said it, the EPA has said that they will be doing works in terms of evaluating what a form of pollution and the extent of pollution associated with the power ship, right? The EPA, as you know, is one of the agencies that work for government, and that is their work. We will have the reports at the end of EPA's work. I don't know if that answers your question.
Next,
This
please.
is the same engines they have in all the other plants.
On the right, please, is the gas energy project on track for its deadline?
The simple answer to that is yes. The third quarter, I'm advised, the 2025, we'll start evacuating power from the gas to energy site. Many of the equipment is already in country, and some of them are on the way to Guyana. So it's just a matter of putting everything together, and I'm advised that third quarter 2025 we should start receiving electricity from that project.
You suppose last year the contract was signed for the National Control Center. Can we have an update on this?
Yeah, update.
So the control center, two elements. The first element is the They scan equipment that goes into the building and then the building itself. There are two different contractors that were awarded those contracts. Both of them, we have actually had subsequent meetings based on the original contractual signing to sometime in April and in May for those to complete. That's the control center that will be behind Eccles in, well, it's better for Wattic, but in location is behind Eccles here. So that is on stream too, and it's being monitored very closely.
At what stage are you at with the project?
Well, maybe I'll get that over to you for both of them, but I can say that both of these projects are on schedule. Right? There was an access road that needed to be built, and we have already built that access road. I think it finished maybe yesterday or today.
Thank you. Next question.
Councilor Godfrey, DPI. Prime Minister, could you clarify the total cost expended on the 146 ICT hubs that were completed?
The other figure. Year to date, we've expended 11,161,800 US. That's some 66% of the total expenditure for the project. Right? You know, the project would have been 17,030,752 US dollars. And year to date, we've expended 11,161,800.
Do you have a follow-up, or should we move to? Please continue.
Thank you, Councilor.
Next witness.
Saskia Warwick, Minister Inler, it was noted that we currently have a generating capacity exceeding demand. However, power outages often occur due to weaker collisions with GPL structures. Has a system been put in place to recover the cost of damages from vendors? And so how much has been recovered in last year?
Through the Prime Minister. May I, sir?
Not
Thank you very much for the question. And I'm glad you raised this question. Because, you know, when all your life things ain't going right for you, and then, you know, you do something good and still things ain't going right for you, I believe that's the case with GPL. So we came off of a good year as Prime Minister with a lot of power to generate. And every minute of the day, I have reports in my phone of some car driving into some pole, some truck breaking down some electricity main line, some contractor with some crane driving pile next to the 69,000 volts and causing disruption to customers. Somebody cut a tree. Was when? Boxing Day, the day after Boxing Day in Georgetown. Cut a tree and the tree fall on the main wire, give the whole Eccles blackout. So these things, you get weary of them. Weary. I can tell you 96% of the occurrence in 2024 in that vicinity was due to some kind of intervention with the transmission line. And what happens, I'm glad you asked the question. What happens is when you hit a transmission line and the two wires, especially the heavy voltage one, the two wires collide, the power, there are some relays on the substation. The relays act as a protection for the entire system. So they will shut down to protect the system. That is how you get these problems. That's how you get these outages. Now to deal with that matter, GPL were instructed to charge people and to put their name and their face up on GPL page and the media. That is what, and recover the money. Some of them are in court. I don't know if those cases were finalized. I can't give you a number of how much of them were, how much money recovered, but I know a lot of them, we took them to court. Mr. Hajan and Mr. Homer is here. They can attest to that. But this is a serious problem we have. Christmas Eve night, somebody driving the highway, lick down a pole, the whole one side, get blackout. Another area in Dickension, they're driving to a pole down there, knock down the whole community, get blackout. So you tell me, maybe you should advise me, I should employ you to come and advise me how we deal with that. Because you got the police on the road. You're already charging them and taking them to court. You're already putting a name and shame program in place when people do it. But yet it's still happening. But the LGP will get the blame. That's why I say they're doing some. You see what I'm trying to explain to you is a quagmire. But we're going to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. There's a policy level, there's a policy on people hitting down the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions to end?
We know that GPO was recently done major upgrades to the gate system, but there were a number of persons who were still set to go through with upgrading their systems. Can you say if this process has been completed and if not, how are you going forward?
This is the prepaid meters where they had to get a code to upgrade to receive the tokens. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
I didn't hear you too much. Okay. There was a deadline for that. Harjan? Homo? There was a deadline for it. Can you answer that?
Yeah, it was November 24th. It was November 24th. And that was not a cheap and initiated upgrade. That was an international upgrade that was necessary because the platform is being upgraded. So what we did at GPL is we started, this as early as I think April of last year. We started notifying customers. We took it upon ourselves to actually go out in the field to do necessary changes or upgrades where necessary. Where there were some customers whose meters were not upgradable, that had not been changed out, we made provisions for those by generating some special tokens that allow those customers, once they contacted ourselves in GPL, to continue with power whilst we went through the process of having their meters replaced, and we are currently not aggressively doing that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. This is just one of the many encounters that I expect to have with the media in 2025. I know there's a lot of information that you will want to get from the Office of the Prime Minister. Just be assured that the Office of the Prime Minister remains open to answering any questions. As you know, Melissa Gordon works out of the Office of the Prime Minister, and I know some of you from time to time will even text or call me directly for information. Feel free to continue doing that in 2025. 2025 is an important year for us because, you know, we had our manifesto that we went to the election with in 2020, and we would have, at this point in time, be way ahead in the completion of all the programs, most of the programs, if not all, the programs and projects that we promised the people. So 2025 is a significant year where what was not completed, what is advanced, will be completed in 2025 before the elections, which will be later this year. So 2025 will be a busy year for us, focused on completing all the developmental projects and programs that we promised the people of Guyana when we went to election in 2020. And of course, we're well advanced in our planning for that next development cycle, 2025 to 2030, which you will hear more about later. But I want to also take the opportunity to thank all the heads of agencies and senior staff from all the agencies that fall under the responsibility of the Office of the Prime Minister for their work in a highly professional manner, beyond the call of duty from the time I assumed office as Prime Minister on the 2nd of August 2020 to now. This is a team of heads of agencies that I really admire and learn a lot from working with over the past 4.5 years. And frankly speaking, I would like to continue to work with you for another 5 years. So members of the media, thank you for being here with us, and we remain open to any future engagements with you.